You guys made it. Over the river, through the woods, on the trolley, under the bridge, across the water, back on the trolley. So thanks for coming. Sorry that it takes a little bit to get here. I didn't realize it was going to be so far away either, but I'm glad you're here. So let me get started. Take you to where I was sitting on the dock in Nassau after break from 4 back-to-back charters where we had just been jamming for a month long, and my cell phone pings, and I get text after text that day. I don't know what it was with that day, but he starts off and he says, "Hi Cap, I see you're docked at the same marina as I am, and I wanted to run something by you and maybe stop by later on." I said, "Sure, go ahead." I was thinking that he wanted to come and visit, probably knew one of the guys or some of the other crew on my boat. That wasn't the case. He texts back and he says, "My captain got drunk last night, started yelling at me for having the radar on while underway, said that you've got calm seas and clear skies. Why do you think that you need that on?" He says, the young man says, "I told him that I was trained to always use all means of navigation available to me." And the captain says, "You're such an idiot and clearly don't know what you're doing. Poor excuse for a first officer." Wow. He says, the young man goes on to say, "I tried to excuse myself and go to my room. He followed me, he grabbed me, roughed me up a bit, and wouldn't let me go." He says, "I was able to break away, but I don't know what to do. This is my first position as a first officer, and I need this position so bad." He says, "If I leave," he told me that he'd blackball me so bad that I'd never get another job in this industry. I don't know what to do. This has me so anxious and depressed." I wish this was the only story that I had like this to share with you, but it's not. "Are you in town, Cap?" Meaning Nassau. I worked on a busy charter boat, so did she. I said, "No, I'm not. I'm out on charter. But how are you?" "I'm a mess," she said. That's not at all what I was expecting. She says, "I've been on charter for 6 weeks straight and just got back from the hospital after having some sort of allergic reaction. Just as I came back, the first thing that my chief's two said to me was, 'Go get on the heads and beds. It's about time you're back because you've caused me to get so far behind on my own work.' When I asked her to let me get settled and that I'd jump in shortly, she threatened that I'd taken enough time off board, and if I didn't get back to work straight away, that she'd tell the captain. I thought about going to the captain's myself," she said, "but I knew that wouldn't work because, well, she was dating the captain. She came down to the crew mess where I was, screamed at me to get to the heads and beds, and then swatted at me, knocking my drink out of my hand. I crumbled. I was tired. I missed my family. I didn't feel well. And I didn't get any real answers about what was going on when I was at the doctor. Cap, I just felt like I wanted to tie some weights to my ankles and jump overboard." That's what she said to me. And this one gets me. "I know we don't really know each other other than through social media," she says, "but I wanted to ask you something." Go ahead. She says, "Have you ever experienced sexual harassment or assault as a female captain?" And I said, "Yeah, I have." She says, "I've been working on boats since I was tiny, since I could walk, and being a captain has been a lifelong goal of mine. The chief mate that's on this vessel couldn't stand the fact that he was passed over and I was promoted to captain instead of him. He told me, 'I'll get even and I'll make you wish you never got to the top.' He broke into my cabin one night After him and the rest of the crew had gone out to have a few drinks, he came back early. You know the rest of the story. And she says to me, is this something that I have to learn to put up with if I want to be a part of this industry? That got me. Do I have to put up with, is this something I have to put up with if I want to be a part of this industry? The reasons that I share these stories with you and the reasons that I'm here today is because over 50% of crew have indicated leaving the industry entirely because of stuff like this. Number two, when I talk to crew about instances such as this, and I always ask them, well, why didn't you say something? Why didn't you go to the captain? Why didn't you go to your HOD? Why didn't you say something to the person that was bullying you or doing XYZ to you? And they say the same thing every time. I'm afraid of getting fired. I'm afraid of being blackballed. I'm afraid that I'll never get another job in this industry. And the third reason, and this is why I launched my first seminar back in March, is because it happened to me. It happened to me not long ago, and it happened to me as a captain. It happened to me on what I call a morale day, when I take the crew out to go play and do something fun. We spend all this time running the tenders, launching the jet skis, launching the sea bobs, taking people fishing, but we don't ever get to go do that ourselves. So I said, come on guys, let's go. I run a dry boat. I'm very adamant about running a dry boat. But when we do go out on occasion, some of the guys, some of the girls might have a drink or two. I don't drink ever, it's just by choice. And one of them in particular decided to have a couple of drinks. And as we were leaving the beach, he grabs my bikini top and pulls it all the way off. There was a lot of people at the beach that day. And it wasn't so much the fact that my boob was now just been exposed to the whole entire beach. It was the fact that I took my crew out for the day. It was a work day. We had another charter to get ready for, but I was so worried about them having a good time, getting to go play, having some fun, some time off board. And that's what I get. And I went from that to, what have I done wrong as a captain? Oh my God, am I a bad captain? Because if I was a good captain, this wouldn't have happened to me. Oh my God, is there all this shame, doubt, fear sent me for a bit of a tailspin for a while. And it messed up my mental mojo for a good period of time. What I found interesting when I was writing this speech, this talk, I put a lot of time into them. So I'm going through my mental Rolodex of stories that I have, going through my cell phone of text message conversations that I have, thinking, what is it that I want to share with you guys? I noticed, after I decided which ones to share, well, actually, the first three that I decided to share all had a common theme: alcohol. Every single one of them had alcohol in them. And I said to myself, well, I need to find one that doesn't have alcohol in it, because this is going to sound like the whole seminar is devoted to drug and alcohol abuse, and maybe that means I probably should devote an entire one to it. So my point being is 2 out of the 3 stories that I just shared with you have a common thread, and it's alcohol, the abuse, the misuse, whatever you want to call it. And in fact, according to an industry survey, the industry, 59% of crew have said that issues that have related to a decline in their mental health have been as a result of the misuse of drugs and alcohol. 59%. 59% of the decline mental health related issues are because of alcohol. But remember, out of all of the stories and the text messages that I searched back through, I had to dig for one that didn't. Now, I'm not saying that our industry is any different, any more unique to have these issues of drug and alcohol abuse, sexual harassment, bullying, burnout, race, size, and gender discrimination. We're not any different. Those issues are in every single industry. But I think what is different for us is that we live together, work together, play together, sleep together. I mean, together, all of the time. So when you add that element in, I think that it makes for a much better breeding ground of amplification of these issues. And on top of that, if you're in the middle of a transatlantic crossing and this stuff's going on, where the hell do you go? 53% of crew members say that their mental health has deteriorated since they joined the industry. That's over half. We got a lot of crew. I don't know the exact number, but we got a lot of crew. And I'm thinking even just on my small boat of 5 of us, I'd be mortified if 2.5 of us said that our mental health had declined since they had joined the industry. Yours hasn't, Alex, has it? Alex is my engineer. He better say he's okay. No. 23% say that they've encountered some form of bullying, and twice that occurs on the interior. This is something that kind of tugs at my heart a little bit because I feel that the interior of a vessel gets less behind. So twice, hear that, twice as many crew members get bullied on the interior as they do the exterior. And of those getting bullied on the interior, 50% of the junior crew say that they're being bullied by their chief stew. That doesn't make me angry. That doesn't make me mad at the person that is bullying the chief stew that's bullying her junior stew. That makes me sad. It makes me sad because that shows that the interior is getting left behind. Think about it. And this just happened. Monday, I hired a new chief stew, and she's really strong, she's really good, but it's been a minute since she's been on a vessel that requires really high-level silver service. We have great owners, but they like that really high level of service. They consume some very nice qualities of wine. And so I checked in with her and I said, hey, how are you feeling on your silver service and how are you feeling on your wine? She's been a bartender forever, so I know she's got that pat down. And she's got all of the other service down pat. She says, I think I could use a refresher. And I said, all right, well, let me go have a look and see what we can find. So I'm looking through these upcoming course schedules, several different schools in Lauderdale, and engineering, deck. I'm scrolling for days and I'm like, where is interior? There's one. I sent an email to one of the schools, a school that I love dearly. So this is no slam whatsoever to any of them actually. And I said, hey, I got a question about my deckhand. He wants to start with engineering. I said, where does he go? And then I said, I have a question about my chief stew. She needs to refresh a couple things. Where does she go? So the email comes back. I just read it before I came into here. And it scrolls with her reply on how to get my deckhand started in engineering and the courses that he can take. And then it ends with, here's the one that your chief stew can take. That's sad. We're leaving the whole industry. This isn't anybody, one person. The whole industry is leaving interior behind. And then if you think about how captains feel about the interior, look, I'm a captain that hands down right there tells you rather go play with my new chart plotter than my new fake flowers. I'm sorry, but that's the reality of it, okay? I would rather geek out in the engine room with whatever project Alex has got going on than go look at the new table linens that you just bought. Now, that's just because we're captains and that's what intrigues us and that's what we want to do. Now, being a female captain, though, I think in that regard, I have an advantage. Because when I'm in the wheelhouse on charter, one of my favorite parts of the day is when interior starts setting up the elaborate table settings. And that's just about the time of day that I need a break mentally. So I'll come out on the fly bridge. I'll decorate the table with them. Bless their hearts. They let me come out and they let me mess for about 10 minutes. They let me screw it up for about 10 minutes in the middle of a charter, and then they kick me off the fly bridge back into the wheelhouse. But so I do try to make it a point to stay engaged with the interior, but I think the interior, and just on my own self, I think that I stay engaged with the interior as little as I do because I'm a woman. So I think that one of the reasons the interior gets left behind is just, well, it's not where the guys want to go. But so I challenge captains and first officers to be more engaged with the interior, because what happens when you're absent is if they haven't had a mentor, they haven't had somebody teaching them what proper leadership is, I see these bullyish ways just start to magnify and start to breed and start to just blow up. And it seems like there's a rite of passage that to be on the interior or to move up to a chief stew, you have to, somebody's going to be mean to you, or somebody's going to, this was said to me the other day from 3 different short little quotes. I had to spend my fair share of time doing nothing but heads in beds, so can you. Well, that's not very nice. Or, you'll be locked in the guest cabin with the lights out and your phone taken away until you can tell me what you did wrong today. That's mean. Or, your service skills are crap, so you won't be doing any of the dinner service. We're missing some leadership. So I find a ton of bullying going on the interior. At the end of this, I'll give you some resources that I have found for interior that I think can help move you guys along. So 47% was the number. 47% was the number that crew cited as being a lack of leadership. But in a captain's defense or a department head's defense, I'm a captain because I like to drive boats, I love weather, and I love navigation. Nobody told me that I'm mom, I'm dad, I'm camp counselor, I'm HR, I'm psychotherapist, I mean, and. So I encourage the crew out there to take that upon themselves, to advance their leadership on their own, to understand how responsible you are now, and I don't care what rank you are, whether you're captain or whether you're just starting out, we're all leaders in some capacity. I geek out on it all the time on YouTube and Google search and that kind of thing. 125%. That's a big number. 125% is the call increase into ISWAN. If you don't know who ISWAN is, please know who ISWAN is, or ask me about it, or go to my website, it's there. ISWAN runs the Yacht Crew Helpline. And they saw, not in a year, that 125% increase in calls was not in a year, that was in 1 quarter. From the last quarter of 2022 to the first quarter of 2023, they saw that large of an increase into their helpline. It was about bullying. It was about sexual harassment. It was about drug and alcohol abuse and race, size, gender discrimination. This is what we're seeing here today. And I wanted to share some of these statistics with you so that you could kind of get a grasp on what's really going on the inside of this industry. And last year, I think probably many of us in here know that we lost one of our crew members, not me personally, but the industry lost one of their crew members to suicide. And after that happened, I thought to myself, I need to say something about this. I need to make a post about it. I need to acknowledge it. And I did. So I made a post on social media and I said, if you can be anything, be kind. Because every single one of us are going through some sort of a battle at any given point in time. That's all I said. I did not expect Ingle of Lloyd's Register to reach out to me. And I did not expect about a month later for Pete Southgate of Cayman Island Flags, both of those guys to be standing on my swim platform. And I said, oh God, what did I do? And I said, oh, well, I'm US flagged and I'm arena class, so I guess I don't have to worry about that too much. But the guys came on, we talked for an hour and a half about, okay, here's the issues, here's what we're seeing, here's the trends, here's the statistics. So how do we make a change? Well, we said, we got to figure out the who's, the whens, the wheres, the whys, the hows, but it was the who that we got to. Who has the greatest ability to make a difference? And throughout my conversation with them, conversations with managers, captains, junior crew, you name it, I had a lot of conversations. It was determined that management companies and captains had the greatest ability to make the change. Think about it. We're the ones that are the direct link in between the rest of the crew and the owner. Now, I say companies, but don't put all of that on their shoulders. That's huge to say that the changes that need to be made are just on two portions of the industry. Yes, they're the most influential. Yes, they have the greatest responsibility, and they should. But don't put all of that on their shoulders. Have some personal responsibility, some personal accountability, and speak up. When this stuff is happening, when this is going on, when somebody's trying to grab a butt cheek, or when somebody's telling you something mean and you're dumb and you're an idiot or something, stop it. Tell them, I don't appreciate that. That wasn't kind, or just stop and turn around and walk away. Advocate for yourself, open your mouth, speak up. There's no reason you can't say something. And I know you're afraid of getting fired. I know you're afraid of getting blackballed. But I'm scared as hell standing here telling you to speak up when I know that it's being recorded and it's going to go in a couple of days on the World Wide Web for the whole entire world to see, and somebody at some point is going to slam something that I say. So this is scary, okay? So speak up, say something, advocate for yourself, because if you don't advocate for yourself, nobody else will. And advocate too. Don't just stand there when you see something wrong. Stand up, say something. And you know what? If you do have a bad captain or a bad management company and you get canned for saying something, let me tell you, you're probably going to have another job before you hit the end of the dock, because there's so many boats out there looking for crew. We have a moral obligation as leaders and members of this industry to make a difference, to try to make that change. When I looked up and I started researching this, well, I've been researching this topic of mental health and what causes a decline in mental health. And let me just point that out. All of these things that I'm babbling on about, these are all things that lead to a deterioration in our mental health. And my four big ones, we've been talking about them, and they are the four big ones with the greatest influence, the greatest impact, and where we see the greatest decline is the bullying, the sexual abuse, the drug and the sexual harassment, the drug and alcohol abuse, and the size, gender, and race discrimination. Let me get to size, race, and gender discrimination. Stats to share with you on that. And I can't talk to you about race discrimination, but I can tell you what it does. I've seen what it does. It hurts. It makes people that are of a different color look over their shoulder, watch their back all of the time. I've seen it happen to my own engineer. I'm proud that I keep a pretty diverse boat, and I've got 2 Latinos on there, and I've got a Chief Stew on there with purple hair and complete sleeves. I try to set the example and roll a little different. I've seen my engineer go through race discrimination, and he laughed it off. Well, you can imagine if you know me. I got up and I went after the guy that said something to him. And I said, "You're not going to do this on my vessel. I'm not going to have it. I won't put up with it." And that's what you should say, not sweep it under the rug. Approach it right then and there. Do you know that guy the next day comes back to the boat, asks for my engineer, and of course I bristled up because I'm like, "Well, why do you want to talk to my engineer?" And he's like, "I want to apologize." That made a difference to not just Alex, but probably more to that guy. And what gets me about the guy that did the racial discrimination to Alex is he was black. How could someone that continually gets discriminated against come on board and discriminate against one of mine? So I can't speak about race. I can tell you that it hurts. I can tell you that it sends people to a really bad place mentally. But what I can speak about is size and gender discrimination. I mean, there's no doubt that I'm carrying some junk in the trunk, okay? I'm not a small woman. And it hurts and it sucks when you walk into the uniform company and they look at you and they tell you you need an extra, extra large. Or, "I need a shirt for my epaulets." And they say, "Well, we don't have one big enough that'll fit your top end." What? It's a good thing I've worked for years on my body image, because that would have sent me into one hell of a tailspin when I walked out of that shop. Gender discrimination. I had a manager call me and tell me, "Just want to let you know off the radar that I saw one of my colleagues pick your CV up, looked and saw you were a woman, and slid it to the other side of the desk." I encourage you not to hire that way. You're missing really, really good talent. And if you're a captain or you're a management company, stand up to your owner. You know what? When I hired my chief stew, I didn't call my owner and tell him that she had purple hair and tattoos. I'm just going to let him see it. And it wasn't out of disrespect to him. It was because, one, he's a good guy and he's not going to see that. Well, he's going to see the purple hair, but he's not going to look at her that way. And if he does, I'll say to him, "I hired her based on her talent, based on the fact that she's kind, she's caring, she's good to the entire crew. That's why I hired her." So where does this leave us? How do we make a change? I've given you all of these stats. I've shared all these stories with you. So how do we move forward? It's simple. It's one of the simplest things you can do, and I've been harping on it for the last 20 or so minutes. Open your mouth. Speak up. Say something. That's the only way we're going to make a change. And over my time of reviewing literature on things like this and listening to videos, yes, we can take the 1-hour-long sexual harassment course where we click, 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 and we can take it over and over so we don't watch it. We open up another tab and we do something else, and we take the quiz over and over until we pass it, and then we move on. And so we never really learn anything. Yes, those courses are kind of good. Yes, we need them, but there's a different way. And when you look at bullying and sexual abuse and the whys, it's yes, there is some genetic component to something like drug and alcohol abuse, but that's not what was prevalent in the literature when I was looking. All of these top 4 that I've been talking about, the literature indicates that they happen for the same reason: social factors, your environment. So if it's social factors, if it's our environment, think about it. Our environment condones drinking. Our environment says, go party. Well, instead of go partying when you drop the boss off or you drop charter, why don't you go for a run? Why don't you go for a swim? Why don't you go for a walk? Why don't you watch a movie? And I'm going to put this one back on captains. Because I could say, let's $1,000 tip and go blow it at Atlantis. Or I could say, hey guys, let's go to the Parrot, have dinner, come back and watch a movie. And that's what we did. Or if you're sick and tired of me, go do something on your own. You know, but it doesn't have to be drinking. But our environment, our culture is suggesting to do that. The pack mentality. I relate this if you think back to a pride of lions or a pack of coyotes. When one starts getting aggressive and mean, the others chime in. When you have maybe a stew bullying somebody and being mean, the other girls chime in. Say something. Open your mouth, step up, advocate for yourself. That's how we see the change. So now that I've given all you that, it's simple. Speak up. That's all you have to do to see a cultural shift. There's no denying that this industry needs a bit of a facelift. That facelift is in the form of this cultural change that I'm talking about, which is the environment and the reason these things happen. So when you won't put up with someone grabbing your boob, when you won't put up with someone making fun of you on the exterior because you're not big and buff, when you won't put up with someone bullying you, when you won't put up with someone saying, you're not qualified as a chef because you're black, open your mouth. And as we say something little by little, we will see that shift in culture. I might not see it in my time as a captain, but it'll happen. And if you don't think that it can happen, I wish I could share my Instagram feed with you because it just makes me so happy. And I'll talk about this young lady that I met in Monaco. She comes to my talk. She grabs a chair, pulls it off to the side, so I immediately notice her. So I walk up to her. I want to say hello to her, and tears instantly start streaming. So I bend down to her, and she says, I just want you to know, your post on toxic boats, that's what gave me the courage to leave my last boat. And had I not left my last boat, I don't know where I'd be. I was speechless. And she told me, I'm in a much better place now. And by the way, look at my text message feed with my mom. It's just nothing but you on there. And I was like, oh. So I get these messages. This is how I know I'm just one person. I'm just one person. So if I can get these messages now about, hey, you know, your 3-minute little Instagram video made such a difference. Or the former stew that I had that calls me up and says, my engineer is creeping me out. I'm getting a hotel. I talked to the captain about it. Nothing's been done. And I said, well, what'd you say to the captain? Well, I kind of mentioned it. And I was like, no, we got a lot going on in our heads. Sometimes you just have to grab us and shake us and say hello. She says, okay, I don't want to do this. And I said, you have to. She goes back. She tells him what's really going on. He had no idea. He slipped through the hiring cracks, didn't get through the background investigation. They figured out right away he had to go. And she says, this isn't the best part. She says, this is the good part, but not the best part. She says, now we're all happy. The owner's happy, the captain's happy, I'm happy, the boat's running flawlessly. The best part was when she said, because you encouraged me, now I can encourage others. That is the best. Her encouraging others. I get excited when I encourage someone, but when that someone, then it's the domino effect, it's the trickle effect. Think about it, because now she's had a successful experience stepping up. So that cultural change will happen one by one by one, and hopefully we'll force the bad eggs out, or the people that have adopted certain behaviors will realize that they need to change them. Now, I've shared some, I guess, not ideal stuff about the industry with you, but let me say I love my job. I love my job. There's not a day that I don't jump up out of bed ready to go to work. Some days I don't jump as high, and some days I don't jump as fast. There's days I have my resting boat face on, and my first officer has to say, "The hell crawled up your butt today?" He can say that because he's been working with me for 3 years now, so he'll get away with that. But I love my job. There's not a day that I don't want to come to work. It's the people. It's the relationships that we build. It's the experiences. But I think we can safely say that yes, the culture of yachting needs a facelift. Maybe something more like an overhaul. If we love this industry, and I know you do because you wouldn't have taken the time to go over the river and through the woods and on the bus and over to listen, so thank you, by the way. If you love this industry, you'll speak out. You'll work to make the change. And we will see the change happen. So I want to leave you with this one last story. You guys have probably heard it before. They call it the starfish story. I don't know if that's what it's really called, but I call it the starfish story. And it goes something like this. There's an old man that walks the beach every morning before he gets started writing. He's an author. This particular morning, he's walking the beach after a big storm. And the beach is just littered from one end to the other with undersea life. And off in the distance, he sees a little boy. Can't really tell what he's doing. As he gets closer, he sees he's occasionally bending down, picking something up, and chucking it back in the ocean. Finally, him and the boy meet, and he says to the little boy, "Young man, what are you doing?" And the little boy says, "I'm throwing the starfish back into the sea because if I don't, when the sun comes high, they'll dry out and they'll die." And the old man says, "But there's so many starfish, I'm afraid that you're not going to be able to make a difference." And the young man looks at the old man and he smiles and he says, "I made a difference to that one." So if you don't think you can make a difference, you can. Because I'm hearing the stories, I'm seeing the text messages. So one crew member at a time, we can make a difference. Thank you. Well, I know you don't want to listen to me talk for an hour and 15 minutes. I wanted to leave the rest of the time for questions. Before we get there, though, I want to say thank you to this young woman right here in the white dress. She told me she just came all the way from Italy to hear me talk. I don't know how I'm not bawling yet. Yes, thank you. Don't do that. Don't do that. My crew is here and they will tell you that I'm the crier of the group. And my crew and former crew are here. My engineer goes everywhere with me. Well, he's secretly my boyfriend, so he has. He's also the production assistant, the audiovisual assistant, the carrier of the purse when I forget to bring it. So thank you to him for always being here. My first officer walked in late, but better than ever, because I left him with a boat that's going through a complete refit in the yard to take care of that himself. So seeing him walked in just gave me chills. His sister's here, which is a former crew member of mine. My crew don't have to be here, and at Palm Beach, all of them were there, plus about 3 or 4 more that had worked with me in the past. That means so much to me. And you guys coming over the river through the woods to come here and talk, and the messages you send me, it takes balls or something to stand up here and talk about this kind of thing. And there's days that self-doubt creeps in, and there's days, and I told you, that I wonder if I'm doing the right thing and if I'm saying the right things. And